The phone call came at 3:47 a.m. Vincent Cross, the fifth richest man in America, was found dead in his mansion. Suicide, the police said. A single gunshot to the head in his study. But here's what they didn't find at the scene. 3 handwritten notes. 3 promises. 3 women whose lives he'd promised to change forever. And here's what will shock you. Vincent Cross didn't kill himself because he lost his fortune. He killed himself because he kept his word. Let me tell you about Vincent Cross the way the world knew him. Tech genius. Self-made billionaire. The kind of man who turned a college dropout's dream into a global empire. Cross Tech dominated everything from smartphones to social media. Vincent's face was on magazine covers next to headlines like The Midas Touch and American Dream Realized. But success like that comes with a price. And Vincent Cross was about to pay it in full. The story I'm about to tell you spans 18 months. 3 encounters. 3 women from completely different worlds. 3 wishes that would expose the darkest truth about power, privilege, and the price of playing God. It started with guilt. Vincent Cross had everything, but he couldn't sleep at night. Not because of his wealth, but because of how he'd gotten it. You see, Crosstech's breakthrough technology, the algorithm that made him billions, wasn't entirely his creation. It was built on the unpaid work of interns, the stolen ideas of employees he'd fired, the intellectual property of smaller companies he'd crushed. Vincent knew this, and it was eating him alive. So he made a decision that would change for lives forever. He would find 3 people he'd wronged, directly or indirectly, and give them anything they wanted. No limits. No conditions. Complete financial freedom to right the wrongs he'd created. It sounded noble. It sounded like redemption. It was actually the beginning of his destruction. The first woman Vincent chose was Maya Johnson, a 34-year-old single mother from Detroit. Maya's story connected to Vincent in a way she never knew. 5 years earlier, Crosstech had acquired a small educational software company where Maya worked as a programmer. Vincent shut it down immediately, laying off all 200 employees to eliminate competition. Maya lost her job, her health insurance, and nearly lost custody of her 8-year-old daughter when she couldn't afford rent. But Maya was a survivor. She'd clawed her way back, working 3 part-time jobs while studying for her master's degree at night. She was brilliant, determined, and completely unaware that Vincent Cross was the reason her life had nearly collapsed. That was about to change. Vincent found Maya working the night shift at a downtown Detroit diner. It was past midnight, and she was serving coffee to truckers and insomniacs while reviewing coding assignments on her laptop between customers. He watched her for 20 minutes before approaching. Maya moved with efficiency and grace, treating every customer with respect despite her obvious exhaustion. This was a woman who understood struggle, who'd been tested by life and refused to break. "Excuse me," Vincent said, sliding into a corner booth. "Could I get some coffee?" Maya looked up from her laptop, and Vincent saw something that made his chest tight. Intelligence. Dignity. The kind of quiet strength that only comes from surviving hell and choosing to keep fighting. "Of course, sir. Cream and sugar?" "Black is fine." As Maya poured his coffee, Vincent noticed her hands. Callous from work, but steady. These were hands that built things, created things, refused to stay idle. "Working late?" he asked, nodding toward her laptop. "Always," Maya smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Day job doesn't pay enough for school, so I work nights too. My daughter's asleep at my mother's. This is the only time I can study." Vincent felt something crack inside his chest. "What are you studying?" "Computer science. Master's program." Maya's voice carried pride despite her exhaustion. "I'm building an app that helps kids in underserved communities learn coding. Maybe someday I'll have my own company." Vincent nearly choked on his coffee. Here was a woman whose career he'd destroyed, working herself to death to rebuild what he'd taken from her. And she was doing it with more grace and determination than he'd ever shown. "That sounds incredible," he said carefully. "What would you need to make that dream happen?" Maya laughed, but there was no humor in it. "About $2 million, a team of developers, and a miracle. So basically impossible." "What if it wasn't impossible?" Maya stopped wiping the counter and looked at him carefully. "Sir, are you feeling all right?" "I'm Vincent Cross." The words hung in the air like a gunshot. Maya's face went through several emotions, confusion, recognition, then something that looked like anger. "The Vincent Cross? Crosstech Vincent Cross?" "Yes." Maya set down her coffee pot with deliberate control. "You're the man who bought EduSoft and shut it down." Vincent's stomach dropped. "You worked there?" "For 3 years." Best job I ever had. Until you decided our competition was inconvenient. Here was the first twist that changed everything. Vincent had expected to find someone who didn't know about his role in their struggle. Instead, he'd found someone who knew exactly who he was and what he'd cost her. Maya, you destroyed 200 careers in one afternoon, including mine. Do you have any idea what that did to people? To families? Vincent looked at this woman who was working 3 jobs because of his greed and felt shame burn through him like acid. Yes, he said quietly. That's why I'm here. To gloat. To make amends. Maya laughed, and this time it was sharp enough to cut. 5 years too late for that, don't you think? Maybe. But I'd like to try. Vincent reached into his jacket and pulled out a blank check. Maya Johnson, I'm here to offer you anything you want. Any amount. Any dream. I'll make it happen. Maya stared at the check like it might bite her. Is this some kind of joke? I'm serious. Name your wish. I'll grant it. For 30 seconds, the diner was silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights and the distant rumble of truck engines. Then Maya did something Vincent never expected. She laughed. Really laughed. The kind of deep, genuine laughter that comes from recognizing the absurdity of life. You want to know what I wish for, Mr. Cross? Yes. I wish you could spend 1 month living my life. Working 3 jobs. Choosing between groceries and school books. Explaining to your 8-year-old daughter why you can't afford the field trip she wants to go on. Vincent blinked. That's not exactly what I meant. I know what you meant. You want to throw money at me and make yourself feel better. But money doesn't undo 5 years of struggle. It doesn't give me back the time I lost with my daughter while I was working 60-hour weeks to survive what you did to us. Maya leaned across the table, her eyes fierce. You want to grant me a wish? Here's what I really want. I want you to understand what your decisions cost real people. Not just in dollars, but in dreams, in sleep, in family time, in dignity. Maya, I want you to feel what it's like to be powerless. To have your life destroyed by someone who doesn't even know your name. To work yourself to exhaustion just to stay afloat while the person who caused it all gets richer. Vincent stared at her, understanding for the first time that his guilt was nothing compared to the reality of what he'd done. But since you can't actually experience that, Maya continued, I'll take the money. $2 million. I'm going to build my app, create jobs for people like me, and prove that the companies you destroyed could have changed the world if you'd let them. Vincent wrote the check without hesitation. Done. As Maya looked at the numbers, Vincent saw something in her face that terrified him. Not gratitude. Not relief. Determination. The kind of focused intensity that meant she was about to become very dangerous to men like him. Thank you, Mr. Cross, she said, folding the check carefully. You just funded your own competition. Maya Johnson took Vincent's money and walked out of that diner like a woman with a mission. And Vincent Cross, for the first time in his life, wondered if he'd just made a terrible mistake. But this was only the first woman. The second encounter would test everything Vincent thought he knew about justice and revenge. 6 months later, Vincent found himself in a place he'd never expected to be, a community college classroom in Oakland, California. He was looking for Dr. Angela Foster, a 45-year-old professor whose life he'd inadvertently destroyed 8 years earlier. Angela had been a rising star in artificial intelligence research, working for a startup that was developing revolutionary healthcare algorithms. Crosstech had acquired her company specifically for her research, then buried it to prevent competition with their own healthcare initiatives. Angela lost her life's work, her research team, and her chance at changing medical technology forever. She'd ended up teaching basic computer science at a community college, trying to inspire the next generation while mourning the innovations that would never see daylight. Vincent watched through the classroom window as Angela taught a room full of working adults, people like Maya, trying to build better lives through education. Angela moved through complex programming concepts with the passion of someone who still believed technology could save the world. After class, Vincent approached her in the empty hallway. Dr. Foster? Angela looked up from her papers, and Vincent saw intelligence that had been dimmed by disappointment, but not extinguished. Can I help you? I'm Vincent Cross. Angela's face went very still. I see. I'd like to talk to you about health tech industries. The company you destroyed? Angela's voice was calm, but Vincent heard the steel underneath. What about it? I want to make amends. Angela laughed, but it wasn't Maya's sharp laughter. This was tired, bitter, the sound of someone who'd stopped believing in justice a long time ago. Mr. Cross, 8 years ago you bought my company and buried research that could have revolutionized cancer treatment. Do you know how many people have died while that technology sat locked in your servers? The question hit Vincent like a physical blow. Dr. Foster. Thousands. Maybe tens of thousands. People who might have lived if you hadn't decided my work was inconvenient to your business model. Vincent felt the familiar burn of guilt, but this time it was mixed with something else. Fear. Because Dr. Angela Foster wasn't just talking about business. She was talking about bodies, lives, human costs that couldn't be measured in dollars. I can't undo what I did, Vincent said carefully, but I can fund new research, give you unlimited resources to continue your work. Under whose control? Yours? No. Complete independence. Your research, your decisions, your timeline. Angela studied him for a long moment. Why now? Guilty conscience finally catching up with you. Something like that. And what do you get out of this arrangement? Vincent had prepared for this question. Nothing. This isn't a business deal. It's penance. Here came the second major twist that shifted everything. Angela smiled, and it was the most terrifying smile Vincent had ever seen. Mr. Cross, I appreciate the offer, but I don't want your money. I don't understand. 8 years ago, you taught me something valuable about power. You showed me that brilliant ideas, innovative research, and good intentions mean nothing if you don't control the resources to implement them. Angela gathered her papers with deliberate precision. So I spent the last 8 years learning how to accumulate power. Real power. The kind that can't be bought or destroyed by men like you. Dr. Foster. I've been building something, Mr. Cross. A network. Researchers, programmers, investors, politicians. People who believe that technology should serve humanity, not corporate profits. Vincent felt a chill run down his spine. What kind of network? The kind that's about to make cross-tech irrelevant. Angela looked directly into Vincent's eyes, and he saw something that made his blood freeze. This wasn't anger or resentment. This was the cold calculation of someone who'd spent 8 years planning revenge. You see, Mr. Cross, while you were building your empire on stolen innovations, I was building something more valuable, alliances. The researchers whose work you buried, they remembered. The employees you fired, they found new jobs and never forgot who destroyed their old ones. The competitors you crushed, some of them survived and learned from your tactics. Dr. Foster, if this is about revenge, this isn't about revenge. It's about justice, and justice doesn't require your permission or your money. Angela started walking toward the exit, then paused and looked back. But since you asked what I want, I'll tell you. I want you to watch everything you built crumble the same way you made our dreams crumble. I want you to feel powerless while forces beyond your control destroy your life's work. You can't. Can't what? Outmaneuver you? Out-innovate you? Beat you at your own game. Angela's smile was sharp as glass. Mr. Cross, you're about to discover that stolen technology and monopolistic practices are no match for actual talent united by common cause. She walked away, leaving Vincent standing alone in the hallway, understanding for the first time that his guilt had led him into a trap. He'd thought he was granting wishes. Instead, he was funding his own destruction. Maya Johnson was building technology to compete with him. Dr. Angela Foster was building a coalition to destroy him. And Vincent still had one more woman to find. The third encounter would be the one that broke him completely. If you're starting to see how power and guilt can become their own kind of prison, hit that subscribe button. Because the final woman Vincent meets will expose a truth about redemption that will shake you to your core. The third woman found Vincent before he could find her. Her name was Sarah Cross. She was 28 years old, brilliant, beautiful, and completely unknown to the tech mogul who shared her last name. She was also his daughter. Vincent Cross had no idea Sarah existed until she walked into his office on a Tuesday morning, unannounced and uninvited. "Hello, Father." Vincent looked up from his computer to see a young black woman standing in his doorway. She had his eyes, his stubborn chin, and an expression of cold fury that reminded him uncomfortably of Dr. Angela Foster. "I'm sorry, there's been a mistake. I think you have the wrong person." Vincent Michael Cross, born in Detroit, attended Stanford University, dropped out to start Crosstech. Sarah stepped into his office uninvited. "Dated my mother, Denise Williams, for 6 months during your sophomore year. Ring any bells?" Vincent's world stopped spinning. Denise Williams. He remembered her. Brilliant pre-med student, beautiful, kind. They dated briefly before he dropped out to pursue his tech dreams. She'd wanted him to stay in school, build a life together. He'd chosen his company instead. Denise never told me she was pregnant. Because you never asked. Sarah sat down across from his desk like she owned the place. You disappeared one day. Changed your phone number, your address, your whole life. Mom tried to reach you for months. The third twist hit Vincent like a sledgehammer. All these months of trying to atone for his business sins, and his greatest betrayal was sitting right in front of him. Sarah, don't. Just don't. Sarah held up a hand. I didn't come here for apologies or explanations. I came here for something else entirely. What do you want? Sarah smiled, and Vincent saw his own ruthlessness reflected back at him. I want you to know who I am, what I've become, what you missed. She opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. Sarah Williams, Ph.D. in computer science from MIT. Master's in business administration from Wharton. Founder and CEO of Williams Innovations, a company you've probably never heard of because we specialize in ethical technology development. Vincent opened the folder with shaking hands. Inside were patents, research papers, business plans. His daughter had built a tech company that made Crosstech look primitive by comparison. We develop technology that helps people instead of exploiting them. Revolutionary concept, I know. Sarah, this is incredible work. Work you'll never profit from. Work designed specifically to make everything you've built obsolete. The fourth twist hit Vincent like a physical blow. You've been planning this. For 10 years. Ever since I figured out who my father was and what kind of man he'd become. Sarah leaned forward. Do you want to know the beautiful part? I didn't need your money or your connections or your network. I built something better than Crosstech using the one thing you never had. Which is? A conscience. Vincent stared at his daughter, understanding finally that his guilt had been justified all along. He'd spent his life destroying things, and now the most important thing he'd destroyed was looking back at him with his own eyes. Every company you ever bought and shuttered, I hired their best people. Every innovation you ever buried, we improved it and released it open source. Every competitor you ever crushed, they're now my partners, including Maya Johnson and Dr. Angela Foster. Sarah's smile was radiant. You figured it out. Took you long enough. The final twist shattered Vincent's understanding of everything that had happened. The three women weren't random, he whispered. Of course not. Maya's app connects underserved communities to educational resources, completely bypassing your expensive software. Angela's research network has developed medical algorithms that make Crosstech's healthcare division irrelevant. And my company? We've been coordinating their efforts for 2 years. Vincent felt the room spinning around him. You orchestrated all of this. I orchestrated nothing. I just connected people whose lives you'd damaged and let justice take its natural course. Sarah stood up, smoothing her suit. You want to know the really beautiful part? You funded it all yourself. What? Maya's $2 million? She used it exactly like she said she would. Built her app, created jobs, proved that the companies you destroyed could have changed the world. But she also used it to fund Angela's research network. Angela used her resources to support my company's development. We've been building an ecosystem designed to replace everything you've created. Vincent understood finally that he hadn't been granting wishes. He'd been signing his own death warrant. The money you gave Maya has generated $40 million in revenue. Angela's network has attracted $3 billion in ethical investment capital. My company is valued at $15 billion and growing. Sarah walked to the window and looked out at the city where her father's empire was headquartered. In 6 months, Crosstech will be obsolete. Your monopolistic practices, your stolen innovations, your crushing of competition, it's all coming home to roost. Maya's app will replace your educational software. Angela's network will revolutionize healthcare without you. My company will demonstrate that ethical technology development is not just possible, but more profitable than exploitation. She turned back to Vincent, who was sitting in his chair like a man watching his own execution. You asked 3 women what they wished for. Maya wished for you to understand what powerlessness feels like. Angela wished to watch your empire crumble. And me? What do you wish for? Sarah smiled, and for the first time, Vincent saw not his own ruthlessness in her face, but something else. Something that looked almost like love. I wish you had been a better man. I wish you had stayed in school, married my mother, raised me to believe that success and integrity could coexist. I wish you had used your brilliance to build something beautiful instead of something destructive. Vincent felt tears burning his eyes. Sarah, but since I can't have that wish, I'll settle for justice. Crosstech dies, But Vincent Cross doesn't have to. You can choose who you want to be with whatever time you have left. Sarah gathered her papers and headed for the door. Wait, Vincent called out. What happens now? She paused in the doorway and looked back at the man who had given her life but never been her father. Now you decide whether guilt is going to destroy you or redeem you. Whether you're going to spend your remaining years fighting a battle you've already lost, or learning how to be the man you should have been all along. Sarah Cross walked out of Vincent's office and out of his life, leaving him alone with the echo of her words and the weight of his choices. 3 women, 3 wishes, 3 different forms of justice, and one broken man who finally understood that some things can't be bought, stolen, or wished away. Vincent Cross didn't kill himself because he was ruined financially. He killed himself because he finally understood what he had lost. The suicide note police found was addressed to Sarah, though it was never made public. In it, Vincent wrote, "I spent my life accumulating power over things that don't matter, and lost all influence over the only things that do. You are everything I could have been if I had chosen love over ambition, integrity over profit, family over empire. I can't undo the damage I've caused, but I can stop causing more. This is my final gift to you, a world where Vincent Cross can no longer hurt anyone." Maya Johnson's app, EDU Connect, revolutionized education technology and now serves over 10 million students in underserved communities worldwide. She never spoke publicly about Vincent Cross, but at the app's launch event, she dedicated it to everyone who was told their dreams were impossible. Dr. Angela Foster's research network developed breakthrough cancer treatments that saved thousands of lives within 3 years of Vincent's death. When asked about Crosstech's role in delaying her work, she said simply, "Some people build bridges. Others burn them. History remembers which is which." Sarah Cross became one of the most powerful people in technology, but power wasn't what defined her. She was known for companies that prioritized human welfare over profit margins, for innovations that solved problems instead of creating them, for leadership that built up instead of tearing down. She never spoke her father's name in public, but those who knew her understood that everything she built was both a rejection of his legacy and a fulfillment of his potential. The lesson Vincent Cross learned too late was simple. Power without purpose is just destruction waiting to happen. Wealth without wisdom is poverty of the soul. Success without integrity is failure in everything that matters. He had wished to grant wishes, to play God with other people's lives. But the women he tried to save didn't need saving, they needed justice. And justice, once set in motion, follows its own logic, not the whims of guilty consciences. Today, Williams Innovations is worth over $50 billion and employs more than 100,000 people worldwide. It's known as the most ethical technology company in history, proof that doing good and doing well aren't mutually exclusive. Crosstech was dissolved within 2 years of Vincent's death. Its assets were distributed among the companies and individuals Vincent had wronged over the years. Maya Johnson received the largest settlement, which she used to establish a scholarship fund for children whose parents lost their jobs to corporate acquisitions. Dr. Angela Foster's research network became the foundation for a new model of medical research, collaborative, open source, focused on patient outcomes rather than profit margins. The treatments they developed are available globally at cost, saving millions of lives that would have been lost to corporate greed. But perhaps the most important legacy was the lesson these 3 women taught the world, that justice delayed is not justice denied, as long as the right people refuse to give up. They showed us that sometimes the best response to being crushed is not to seek revenge, but to build something so beautiful and powerful that revenge becomes irrelevant. Maya Johnson could have taken Vincent's money and disappeared. Instead, she used it to compete with him on his own terms and won. Dr. Angela Foster could have accepted his offer and returned to dependence on his resources. Instead, she built her own power base and made him irrelevant. Sarah Cross could have revealed herself as his daughter and demanded inheritance or recognition. Instead, she chose to earn something more valuable, the right to define her own legacy. Together, they proved that the most dangerous response to injustice isn't violence or revenge. It's competence. It's building something better than what was taken from you. It's showing the world that the people who were discarded and dismissed and destroyed were actually the ones with the vision to build the future. Vincent Cross thought he was granting wishes. But these women didn't need wishes granted, they needed obstacles removed. And by destroying himself, Vincent finally did something useful. He got out of their way. The billionaire who could grant any wish discovered that the most important wishes can't be granted by anyone else. They have to be earned. They have to be built. They have to be fought for and won. Maya wished for understanding. She got it by making Vincent's world understand what it felt like to be replaced by something better. Angela wished for justice. She got it by proving that buried innovations could rise from the grave stronger than ever. Sarah wished for a father who was a better man. She didn't get that wish. But she got something more valuable, the certainty that she would never become what he had been. If this story moves you, if it reminds you that sometimes the most powerful response to being knocked down is to build something that can't be knocked down, share it. Subscribe to our channel. And remember that every great injustice contains within it the seeds of its own correction. You just have to be willing to plant them, water them, and wait for them to grow into something beautiful. What would your wish have been? What would you have built from the ashes of what was taken from you? Tell us in the comments, because your story might be the one that changes everything. The truth is, we all have the power to grant wishes. Not through magic or money, but through the simple decision to build instead of destroy, to create instead of crush, to lift up instead of tear down. Vincent Cross learned that lesson too late. But it's not too late for the rest of us. Some wishes come true through magic. Others come true through justice. But the most powerful wishes come true through the simple decision to make them come true ourselves.